Another thing the military can do, and the Army loves this, is the GOMOR, which is the General Officer Memorandum of Reprimand. Now, each service has their own version of this, but by far it's used the most in the Army. And so what this is a memorandum of reprimand that's going to be drafted by the JAG office and signed by the commanding general. It is essentially a reprimand where it says you are reprimanded. It's going to have a paragraph of what you did, and then you have 7 days to rebut this. And so you may be in a situation where you've been under investigation literally for 6 months to a year, whether that's through a command investigation, NCIS, CID, OSI, or it can even be a state investigation, and you get a limited amount of evidence and a reprimand, and you literally have 7 days to do a rebuttal to this. So it's very, very difficult to do those in that amount of time. Usually it takes a day or two to get over to the Trial Defense Service office. They'll give you a template. You use that template. The commanding general has seen the template 30 times this year, and you're going to lose. And those general officer memorandums of reprimand, it is critical that you fight those, whether it's through hiring an attorney like our law firm or another attorney that does those, because a general officer memorandum of reprimand, one of three things can happen to those, or potentially one of two if it involves a sharp offense or a sexual assault or sexual harassment type offense. Either the commanding general can look at the rebuttal matters and say it doesn't meet the standard and essentially tear up the general officer memorandum of reprimand. That's one option. Option two is he can what's called locally file it. And by locally filing it, and again, this is not an option if this is a Army sharp type offense, the commanding general does not have the option to locally file it. If a GOMOR is locally filed, it just means that it stays within your local file. It does not hit your 𝗲𝗄, and when you PCS, it is not in your file. So it is a locally filed reprimand that's not going to have dramatic repercussions on your career. It's not going to hurt you in terms of career placement. It's not going to hurt you in terms of getting promoted, unless, again, you commit more misconduct during the time frame while you're there, which is going to be a whole different set of problems. So oftentimes, we're looking to have these GOMORs either filed locally or torn up. Now, the other option that the commanding general has, and which is done most of the time if you don't handcraft a very solid rebuttal to these, is file them permanently or permanently filed. Once they're permanently filed, that is the beginning of the end of your career because it goes in your official file or your 𝗲𝗄 in the Army. And again, the other services have a similar procedure for doing this, but we see these, far and away the most in the Army. And once that happens, once you have a permanently filed GOMOR in your file, you're probably not getting promoted, and your days in the Army are going to be limited as to what you can do. The next thing that will likely happen is you will be required to either show cause for retention or you're going to be separated. If you have a GOMOR in your file and you have less than 6 years of service, you're not going to have a right to a board. Or if you're a probationary officer, you're not going to have a right to a board. And so these GOMORs are critically important because if they get permanently filed and you are a probationary officer or you have less than 6 years in, you are literally a signature away from getting kicked out of the military. So all of the hard work you did to get into the military, all the hard work you did leading up to this GOMOR, you're going to lose all of that and likely get hit on the benefit side because you're likely going to be discharged with, at a minimum, a general under honorable conditions discharge, which could take away your GI Bill, which is a very lucrative benefit you could have. And so it's critically important to put these GOMOR rebuttals together.